which is not that shocking if you watched him play football there over the last, I want to say 2 seasons, but really just one with a future Hall of Famer. New head coach Aaron Glenn, he was asked about this a lot in his intro press conference. He didn't want to talk about it, but fast forward to today, and he is deciding to go in a different direction under center moving forward. It's going to mark a new era for the Jets, a team that has not had success at the position in a really long time. Maybe Mark Sanchez in 2010. It's been a minute, to say the least, and it could also mark another new short-term era for Aaron Rodgers. So here are the top landing spots according to Garrett Podell. There's an article right now over on CBSSports.com. The Steelers coming in at number 1, the Vikings, Titans, and Raiders rounding out the top 4. So it's certainly going to be interesting to see where he ends up. Aaron Rodgers is just one of 6 active quarterbacks with a ring on their finger. Jalen Hurts, of course, the latest one to do so after he won Super Bowl 59. But another one on this list could be on the move as well. We are talking about future Hall of Famer Matthew Stafford. I guess future Hall of Famer depends on who you ask. But his future is up in the air. So let's welcome on Emery Hunt and Tyler Sullivan to help us here. And Tyler, you're going to give us a trade scenario, and then Emery, you're going to tell us whether or not this is viable, who is going to say no between the two teams in this hypothetical trade scenario. So let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know it's a little bit of a quarterback question there. Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, totally different direction. Tyler, Mike Tomlin, what could he offer the Rams for Matt Stafford?
Well, this one's a convoluted one for a reason. I'll explain it as we go along. But the trade that we're looking at here is a 2025 first-round pick, basically a swap of first-round picks between the Los Angeles Rams and Pittsburgh Steelers this year. The Steelers move back to number 26. The Rams move up to 21 overall. They get a second-round pick, number 52 overall, and then they get a conditional second-rounder that can become a first-rounder in 2026. It's a mouthful, but there's a reason for it. Basically what I did, and we set it up nicely coming into this segment, it's basically as best we can mirroring the Aaron Rodgers trade from 2023 between the New York Jets and the Green Bay Packers, excuse me. So to me, that I think is really interesting because both of these quarterbacks somewhat in similar stages in their careers, former Super Bowl champions, kind of on the back end of their career. We don't know how many more years Matt Stafford has left, whether it's just 1, 2 more seasons. So if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you come in here and you solidify that quarterback position, give yourself a higher ceiling going forward. And if you're the Rams, you're collecting draft assets and trying to kind of rebuild on the fly here.
All right, Emery, you saw it all listed out there in the hypothetical trade scenario. And Tyler said it's convoluted. So if you're looking at a big picture, who says no?
I'm going to use the back end of what Tyler just spoke about as the reason why Pittsburgh will say no. We just saw them get over the elder statesman and Ben Roethlisberger. Then we just saw them try to make something happen with the elder statesman Russell Wilson, and now we're trying to make them have another season with the elder statesman at quarterback. How about we just bank all that and just go all in on a young guy, Justin Fields? You know you still have upside. The players already like him in the building. I just think that we have kind of overrated Matthew Stafford since the Super Bowl victory. He's been good, but this year he is starting to show his age. He's been banged up a lot. At the end of the day, if you're Pittsburgh, you have to have a lot of things great around you in order for Matthew Stafford to have success. And I think that's where they're not standing right now. So why not get younger, someone more athletic, someone that could buy you a little bit more time to build around him? So I don't think the Steelers will say yes to this particular trade.
Yeah, we've already seen some players coming out, talking about Aaron Rodgers staying in a nursing home and saying some crazy things in terms of him joining the Steelers. So we'll see what happens there. But also, we're going to talk about a scenario here, Tyler, where Stafford's former NFC North rival lands him. So how would the Vikings be able to pull this off potentially?
Yeah, and this one's much more straightforward. We don't have to give ourselves a popsicle headache with, conditionals and things like that. It's just their first-round pick going to the Los Angeles Rams for Matthew Stafford. This trade would just completely revolve around two things. How they feel about Sam Darnold. Do they want to be attached to him going forward, whether that's in the form of a franchise tag or an extension? How do they feel about J.J. McCarthy? Is he ready to ascend to QB1? If the answer is no to both of those things, then I think think Matthew Stafford really becomes in play, because this team, as we've seen this year, they rack up 14 wins, rivaling for the #1 seed in the NFC. They're ready to win right now, and bringing in Matthew Stafford would give them a much higher ceiling than they had, I believe, with Sam Darnold. And there's already a working relationship here. You have Kevin O'Connell, who's the former offensive coordinator of the Rams during Stafford's first season when they won that Super Bowl, so they could get off pretty much running right out of the gate. And if you're the Rams, you get a first-round pick, and also, you never know, Sam Darnold becomes available all of a sudden if Matthew Stafford ends up in Minnesota, so maybe you can sign him.
All right, Emery, this one's a little bit more straightforward. As Tyler said, who says no in this hypothetical trade scenario?
You know, I actually like this one because this is the Rams approach, where they used to give up these first-round picks for known assets. And if you're picking this low, you almost essentially can give away this first-round pick. So you're getting a guy that kind of fits your scheme, and you have everything in place like he talked about. So for me, it makes sense for both sides, because if you're the Rams, not only do you get a first-round pick, you get ammo to move up to get a guy if you want one in this draft class. Or you could go ahead on and just swap it out for Sam Darnold and take the first-round pick as well. So it actually works out for both parties, because I've always felt that whether you go back with Sam Darnold to Minnesota or bringing a Matt Stafford to Minnesota, there's no rush to throw J.J. McCarthy out there, because he was 20, 21 years old when they drafted him. So it makes more sense to let him continue to learn the scheme, to continue to learn that system, and go with that Jordan Love approach before you throw him out there.
Which is kind of a unique approach in this day and age in the NFL. We've seen that. All right, Tyler, finally, we were talking about the Giants here because, of course, they've been rumored to maybe land Shedeur Sanders. They're sending him cleats, all of that. But you have a potential trade scenario here for the Giants to get Matt Stafford. How does New York get that done?
Yeah, and we go through a bunch of these different scenarios. So let's just say there's a world where it's not a first-round pick for Matthew Stafford. That market just isn't there for the Los Angeles Rams. I think that's when you could see the New York Giants enter the conversation, and I have them offering 2 second-round picks this year's and next to acquire Matt Stafford. It's painfully apparent that they need a quarterback and somebody that can give them a legit quarterback play after what we've seen over the last few years, the failures with Daniel Jones. And we all know what happened last year as well. So to me, I think this makes sense for the New York Giants for this specific reason. I think Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are on the hot seat, and the only way to cool that hot seat is to start winning football games. And if they can't get one of these young quarterbacks at the NFL draft and kind of give that promise of tomorrow, well, then they might be out of a job before we even see this team kind of figure it out at the quarterback position. So bring in Matt Stafford would solidify you at least for the short term and maybe keep their job safe.
Yeah, shout out to Hard Knocks for just adding fuel to the fire there. Emery, what do you think? Can this work?
If Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are off the board or still on the board, and this trade takes place, I will drive the 10 miles myself to MetLife and say no. Because you got to go and get one of these two dudes that gives you long-term success and gets the fans energized. But if those two quarterbacks are gone and they're just giving up 2 second-round picks, I could live with that. So I think no one says no, only if Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are off the board.
Yeah, we saw the cleats on Shedeur's social media, so maybe some foreshadowing there. Emery, Tyler, we certainly appreciate it. Dressing the part for us on Valentine's Day. Everyone looking so spiffy. But hang tight, gentlemen, because we have more to come here on HQ. A little bit of redrafting, if you will, Chris.
Absolutely. And Bryce Young showed some promise at the end of last year. Don't want to redraft him, but looking back at specifically last year's draft and maybe who makes a big jump next year.
Some folks in the NFL just got that special sauce. Game changers who shake up the league and leave their mark for good. Micah Parsons. Oh, he's one of them, no doubt. The man's a wrecking ball, tearing through offenses like they owe him money. But hold up, one all-time great has some words for him, and we ain't talking about just any Hall of Famer. We're talking about the GOAT linebacker himself, Lawrence Taylor. Now, Micah's out there putting up monster numbers, making plays like it's second nature. But LT, he ain't about all the extra noise. He's a great player, but guys, let's do more. Let's play more football and less podcasts. Boom. Straight talk from a man who changed the game. See, LT ain't knocking the hustle. He just knows what it takes to stay on top. No distractions, no side gigs stealing focus. You put the work in on the field first, and the rest, it'll fall into place. But don't get it twisted. Taylor ain't just throwing shade for no reason. He gets that today's athletes got way more opportunities than back in his day. Heck, he even joked about Parsons being the next big action movie star, saying, Micah, in particular, he'll have a action movie star. That brother's got it. But at the end of the day, he's got one message. Don't. Forget where you're at. Chase the bag, do your thing, but never let football take a back seat. See, when LT talks, you listen. This is a guy who didn't just play the game, he redefined it. And he dropped some real gems, saying, 1. Of the things you talked about is you always chased the guy in front of you. But then, when you got in front, you want to let nobody catch you. That's the mindset of a legend. You climb that mountain, you make damn sure no one's pulling you back down. You stay hungry, you stay locked in. And if Parsons wants to be that dude, the one they talk about for decades, he better take notes. Now, here's the kicker. While LT's got words of wisdom, there's talk that Parsons might not be a Cowboy for much longer. Rumors are swirling that Jerry Jones ain't as locked in on keeping him as folks thought. And let's be real, after a brutal 7-10 season, the Cowboys got to make some major moves. Parsons' contract? That's the hot topic right now. Could it? We actually see Dallas letting go of their defensive superstar? And if so, where's he headed next? One thing's for sure, the NFL world is watching, and this story ain't close to being over. Where do y'all think Parsons will land? If Jerry lets him walk?